Hey everybody, it's your friendly Overdrive Radio host Todd Dills coming to you August 5th, 2024 with portions of Overdrive news editor Matt Cole's interview with Wisconsin headquartered owner-operator Mike Nichols, our July Trucker of the Month this year. As Cole wrote about owner-operator Nichols, and I'll post a link to Cole's feature story in the show notes for this edition, he's hauling leased now to bulk carrier Wayne Transports for most of the last 6 years running. The owner well knows his strengths and weaknesses and has built his business to hum with that in mind. His prioritization of effective partnerships, both on the freight side with his longer-term relationship with Wayne and with a trusted maintenance partner, among others, have his one-truck business plenty profitable even through the difficulties of these last years. Wayne Transports, where he specialized in the dry bulk division, is a big part of that.
I go to the same customers often, but I wouldn't call anything dedicated per se. I pretty much just go where I'm needed. I operate mostly in the Midwest, although we get down to Southeast. We've got trucks going everywhere, but I'm just talking about, for me, where I primarily operate is Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Dakotas, Missouri, Arkansas, Indiana, Illinois first. We get out east once in a while, but not too often. Do I go too far east? I think I've been to New Jersey a couple of times, Pennsylvania a few times. It's great. I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else right now. I'm spoiled.
This was a long road to get to this point, though. Today we'll run through the twists and turns of a career that stretches back to his first taste of truck ownership, almost 4 decades ago. After this word from Overdrive Radio's sponsor, House, we pick up with Nichols looking back on his personal trucking lineage, growing up in Illinois. So keep tuned.
Keep your rig running right year-round with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity to protect your entire system and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits. It safely removes harmful water and guarantees a 5% increase in fuel economy or more. Diesel Defender is now available at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. You can also grab a bottle at truck stops nationwide or have it delivered when you shop the Howe store on Amazon. Defend your diesel with Howe.
Find more information about Howe's fuel treatments and more at HOWES, HowesProducts.com. Here's owner-operator and Overdrive July Trucker of the Month, Mike Nichols, taking us back to the 1970s and early 80s.
My stepfather was a trucker, and also he was in the Air Force Reserve, so he kind of did both things. A lot of times he would be on active duty reserve status, but they would convert him to active duty. But when he wasn't doing that, he was a trucker. So I used to go with him as a young child, 13, 14, in that area, 12. And he unfortunately passed away. He was killed in a plane crash in 1982, a military plane crash, KC-135. So in his void, my friend growing up and his father were into trucks. His father drove and my friend wound up driving, and he actually taught me pretty much how to drive, between his dad and he. And then I worked on a hog farm the last 2 years of high school. And so we had a lot of tractors, and I got interested in that. And we had a couple of straight trucks. Not me as a family. I just worked on a farm. I grew up in a rural area, but we did not farm. And that kind of put the bug in me. And then I also went to community college for diesel mechanic, ag mechanic school for about 3 semesters, enough to get a certificate. And I was thinking about going that way in life. And when I got into it 3 semesters, I said, well, the biggest thing I've learned is that I probably ought not be a mechanic. So I kind of abandoned that idea, but I couldn't get away from, I love trucks and pretty much anything with engines. And so I went and took the money that had been saved up by my mom for me to go to college, and I used that to make a down payment on a 1980 cab over Kenworth, single bunk, 160-inch wheelbase, rode like it had square tires, had a 350 big cam in it, and I just tickled pink, to drive that 9-speed direct transmission. But so yeah, I drove that. I bought it at the young age of 18, and I was planning on just driving it intrastate in Illinois. And pretty much that's what I did. I bought a dump trailer, and my friend's dad actually signed the lease. This was different times back then, so you could kind of get away with more than you probably can today. But yeah, and so I did that, and then every once in a while I would come up into Wisconsin and get a load of mulch for a tree nursery in Rockford, Illinois, who I bought the trailer from. Did that for I guess about a year and a half. I met she became my wife, Lisa, in October of '85, and I think we bought that first Kenworth in January of '86. So yeah, pretty young, tender age. And then ultimately I wound up with the same friend that I bought the truck from. I wound up trading the Kenworth in on a Peterbilt, 84 Peterbilt 359. Then he drove that truck and I drove his truck, which was a Peterbilt, an 84 362 cab over, and a neat truck.
During this time then, tragedy struck the young Nichols and his wife, Lisa.
Unfortunately, Lisa perished in a car accident in May of '87, so only 2 months and 2 days after we married. And so that was, I was in the accident with her. A guy T-boned us. He ran a stop sign. And after that, while I was recuperating, I wound up selling the 84 359. And then I was off for probably a good 6 months, maybe 7 months. I had a bunch of broken ribs and a fractured humerus and some other miscellaneous injuries. I went and kind of signed on with a friend, not driving my own truck, but driving his straight truck. And we did a lot of feed, farm deliveries. And so I helped him out with that. And then ultimately got a job for a small meat packing plant in DeKalb, Illinois, hauling their fresh meat every day to the airport, to O'Hare, in their truck. It was a Volvo White, I think. Remember? Yeah. And did that. And then that kind of transcended into, they wanted me to haul livestock for them. And so I kind of went to the school of hard knocks on that, because I'd never hauled a pig in a pickup, So they sent me out to Sioux City, Iowa to pick up a brand new Wilson trailer. And then right from there, I had to go to Ankeny and load up a bunch of horses. So this was back when they had a couple of slaughtering plants here in the United States. They would slaughter, I guess they were horses that were pretty much ready for the glue factory kind of thing.
Mm-hmm, right.
But people eat horse meat, like over in Europe and stuff. And so it was all for export only. But I wound up doing that, and of course I think they closed down. But I actually worked there, and then got hired on with Ryder Resources. So this would be like 22 at this point. Okay. And I worked there for about two and a half years, and then I went back to the horse meat place. I never felt comfortable about being part of that supply chain. There's a lot of people that would take issue with that, and I think I'm probably, in some respects, one of them. But at the time, I didn't have a lot of options. I couldn't be too choosy. So, and now I think they've actually outlawed that, or there's something to it where they're no longer around anymore. I think there still may be a plant up in Canada or something. But yeah, I worked. It was kind of like a pedal route, delivering to do-it center stores. I had stores in Wisconsin. I did a route in Michigan, and then my biggest route was Iowa. I had 26 or 27 stores in Iowa that I would do every Thursday and Friday, and then we were domiciled out of Dixon, Illinois. So then went to work for Food Liner pulling a tank, and that's kind of how I got into the tanker.
Stick a pin in that for sure. Year 1992 then rolls into 1993, and Nichols comes to a short-lived conclusion about the course of his life.
I decided maybe I didn't want to be trucking anymore, so sold my house and moved out to Colorado, and I went to a flight school and got a pilot's license, just a private, but I was going to work my way up and get an instrument in a commercial, and talking to the instructors and stuff, they're just like, the instructor was like, I'm actually thinking about quitting this and being a trucker because the money's not real good. So, those guys were, I don't know what they were making at the time, but it wasn't very much. We're talking $7-8 an hour, and I was like, but the only reason they're doing that is to accrue time,
Right.
Because back in those days, it was very difficult to, you had to be pretty well heeled to buy enough flight hours where somebody would take you seriously, even if you had all the ratings, so I just, I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot of things I learned in flight school as far as prioritization and what they call cockpit resource management. A lot of those same fundamentals really apply to trucks too. I mean, even though you're not flying, but just how you prioritize things, how you keep your eyes moving. The saying in aviation is aviate, navigate, communicate, in that order. Just substitute aviate for operate. I think that's kind of the same thing with trucking.
The short-lived break from trucking turned into a bit longer break from the road, as Nichols described it.
Then I wound up moving back to Illinois, and I worked in a sales dispatch capacity for a small LTL carrier in northern Illinois, and did that for a while, and then wound up moving up to Wisconsin. Moved up to Wisconsin and worked in a traffic management position for a small truck equipment manufacturer, and also did some deliveries and some sales, outside sales for them. And then decided I wanted to go back into owning a truck again. So in 98, I bought a 379. It was a brand new 98 379 and a 98 or 9 utility reefer, 48 spread, 102. I was thinking of getting my own authority back then, but to start off with, I had a neighbor that had a few trucks and had his own authority, so he would just let me use his authority for a small, modest fee a month, and I would pretty much just work through brokers. And I did that for probably a good 3 or 4 years. Ultimately, I wound up having problems with the truck. So that Peterbilt, that 379 was the Lisa Marie 1, if you will, or just the Lisa Marie. And it was a gorgeous truck. Had a 3406E model cat rated at 500, 18 speed. But I had problems with it. Ultimately, it had a vibration. They just could never figure out where it was coming from. The guys from Meritor came down and checked it out, and I drove it up to Fabco Caterpillar, and they couldn't figure it out. But there was a vibration in it nevertheless. And so that wound up being a buyback, a manufacturer's buyback on a lemon law. Wisconsin's got a pretty hefty lemon law. So if you have what they call 4 warranty nonconformities that start in the first year of ownership and or 30 days out of service, you're eligible for that.
Wisconsin's lemon law has been something of a national unicorn with respect to commercial trucks, though it's been a decade since Overdrive surveyed the scene around such laws at the state level. I'll post a link to that past coverage, though, of such laws in the show notes and in the post that houses this podcast when it goes live August 5 at overdriveonline.com/overdrive-radio. In this case, sounds like Nichols was fortuitous. He bought the truck and lived at the time
we fought, they didn't want to give me, they didn't want to do anything for me, to be honest. And ultimately, we came to a consent decree, if you will, and they bought the truck back and compensated me for all my finance interest and all the payments, and then they pay the attorney's fees. And after that, I kind of just got out of owning a truck. I did some other public advocacy work. I actually did some work for the attorney because he specialized in heavy truck lemon law, and he had said, I could probably use somebody like you to, help out now and then, somebody who knows about trucks and also has a reasonable understanding of the law. So I did that on the side and worked as a couple of different odd jobs that were not in trucking, and then came back into trucking around 2004 and started hauling gasoline in and around the Milwaukee area, Madison, southern Wisconsin, and did that for a few years. This was about 2008 or so. I got out of the truck and I went to work in the office again doing dispatch and operations for another tank, bulk liquid food grade tank outfit out of southern Wisconsin here. And did that for quite a while. And then 2016, 17, started hauling for a company out of Minnesota, hauling dry ice, Continental Carbonic was the company, owned by Matheson Tri-Gas, and hauled for them out of Blue Earth, Minnesota for, I think, pretty much going on about 2 years. Came back down, was hauling gasoline again around the Milwaukee area. And the girl had 5 trucks that I was working for, and she wanted, she encouraged me to maybe look at buying a truck, and we were going to do kind of a hybrid sort of lease. She didn't have any owner operators; she just had company trucks. So that was the impetus for purchasing the Lisa Marie 2 that I purchased in Marshall, Minnesota, and this would be 2018 or so. So that's a 2013 Freightliner Coronado 132 glider.
Okay.
12.7. Let's see, 13 speed. I think it had 373 rear ends on low profile 24.5s. And I love that truck. I mean, it had a few bugs in it. I bought it. It had 600,000 on it. Actually found a copy of the old registration in the truck and got a hold of the previous owner and discovered that it just had a major that I don't even know that the dealer knew about.
Oh, wow.
And actually wound up called the Detroit dealer up in Saginaw, Michigan, and managed to get a copy of the work order, the repair order on that. And sure enough, they had went through the whole thing at, like 70,000 miles before I bought it. So very sound mechanically, but it, still a 600,000 mile truck. It had a few problems. I had the power divider go out of it like a month or two after I bought it, and a couple other small things, but by and large, it was a great truck. I drove it 220,000 miles. It didn't work out with leasing that on with her. She ultimately quit the business. But one thing that she imparted to me is that I should, instead of working for her, I should actually go to Wayne. So I went to, called up Wayne Transports. Initially, I was going to tried to haul gasoline for them. We've got a terminal here in Wisconsin. And they didn't have any extra tanks at the time, but the guy that I spoke with said, "Hey, if you're interested, the dry bulk division might be willing to talk to you." So I gave them a call, Dan Anderson, the dry bulk manager, and we talked for quite a while. And I told him about my background and brought the truck up. This would be November of 2018. Signed it on, and I haven't looked back. I've been with Wayne ever since. I was going to keep that truck until, I just about had it paid for, and I was going to keep it probably until like 2023 or 4 was my plan. But they changed the glider rules in 2020, so that was the impetus or incentive to order a new truck. And I was going to trade the Lisa Marie 2 in, but they didn't want to give me anything for it, so I wound up selling her outright to a guy from the Chicago area who was pulling a Conestoga with her.
Okay.
And I saw him a few times afterwards. He left all the paint. He left the Lisa Marie on it. He goes, "Oh, I could never change that." He goes, "That'd be like changing the name on a boat. It's bad luck." So, yeah, he left all the markings and everything on it. And I haven't talked to him in the last few years, so I'm not sure if he's still working at it. That was 2020. We're, kind of getting into the pandemic. Rates were really good, even just working the load boards and stuff. So I know he was killing it for a while. I don't know how he's doing now, but yeah, I would have been happy with the Lisa Marie 2 for, going forward for a while. It was a fantastic truck, but I thought if I'm ever going to, if I'm going to buy a new one, I better do it now. And so I purchased this one. I ordered it, same place I purchased Lisa Marie 2, Harrison Truck Centers out of Marshall, Minnesota, but the glider builder for Harrison's in Waterloo. And they changed their names. Actually, during the time that I was waiting for the truck to come in, Harrison sold out to Truck Center companies. So it was probably a good, I drove the Lisa Marie 2 until like the end of November of 2020. And then it was probably February of 2021 before I actually took delivery of Lisa Marie 2. But I signed the papers by the end of the year, so it was all legal. But
right.
They did a bunch of work, they're a glider shop, so they're a builder. So they put it all together and yeoman's work across the board, the way that it turned out. I was amazed, because I kind of just told him like what I wanted conceptually, as far as paint and exhaust and things like that. Can't say enough great things about them. They were awesome to work with. Yeah, so I've been running it now. She's got I'm just shy of 300,000 on the Lisa Marie 3.
That's a 2020 Freightliner Coronado, and
she's been a good truck. Of course, again, it was brand new. This one has a Detroit, but it's a 14-liter Series 60.
Okay.
It's the DDAC 4. So there's it's kind of an odd or a rare motor, they tell me, because Detroit only made those without the EGR for a short amount of time. I mean, it'd be just a matter of months, if not, less than a year for sure. So it's kind of rare there. And again, it's a factory remanufactured engine. So, it's not being done at a shady shop or anything like that. I've heard a lot of problems that, people were buying junk engines, and came with a factory warranty and all that. So
how does the 14-liter compare to the 12.7 in your experience so far with it?
Not quite as good a fuel mileage. I can still manage to get mid sixes, sometimes low sixes, sometimes a little more. The 12.7 would be up closer to 7. Power wise, it's rated at 550. I actually had it dynoed 5,000 miles after I bought it, and it was put in 578. I did a couple of upgrades. I put a PDI tuner on it, so they say that gives you 10% or so. I would say it almost seems it's about the same, the way that I normally drive it. The 12.7, I had a bigger turbo and a full tilt manifold, Borg Warner Stage 1 turbo, and a Bully Dog tuner on that truck. And so probably with those enhancements on that truck, it's, horsepower wise, it's probably really about the same.
Yeah.
But the 14 liters, it's a bigger engine. It doesn't have to work as hard. One thing on the Lisa Marie 2 that I had issues with is I had plenty of power, but it would make heat. You'd start getting warm going up a hill and stuff. So on this truck, I ordered a custom 4-states radiator. It's probably rated for like 1,000 horse. Mm-hmm. So I never have any problems with heat anymore. Because, you can make all the horsepower you want, but if you can't keep it cool, heat is a killer. Heat is a killer. And I can go down the road now and just watch, and she'll run right between 179 and 187, where the thermostat opens and closes. And, even going up the hill, sometimes I'm watching the temperature drop off. You can still get her warm, if you're good and heavy and it's hot out and you're pulling a good grade. I mean, but nowhere near like the other one. So working out real well with that. Also have an APU on the Lisa Marie 3. I had an APU too on the Lisa Marie 2, and that's trucking 2.0. That's a game changer. Just not having to idle, always having your batteries charged, not having to worry about plugging it in. It'll keep everything warm. Sometimes in the winter I even leave the heat on. So windows are never frosted over. Guess I'm getting lazy in my old age. I don't know, but. It's that's super great investment on that, and that's a Thermo King tri-pack.
Owner-operator Mike Nichols, as he noted, has found a longer-term home, finally, leased to Wayne Transports, working with the dry bulk division. He started with them in November 2018, he said, though.
Wish I would have found him 30 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of time and money and grief. I can't say enough good things about Wayne. They're a wonderful company, family owned. I think it's third generation. Probably what I would call a mid-sized company, several hundred trucks, a few terminals throughout the Midwest. I would call them the preeminent bulk carrier in the Midwest, if not the entire country. They've treated me like family since the day I leased on. And I've never been with a company with a greater commitment to safety, customer service, and mutual profitability. They recognize that they're independent contractors as well as their company drivers. If they're successful, the company is successful. The customers are happy, and safety is a huge thing with me, and it's also a huge priority with Wayne. So I'm glad to be with a company where we share the same kind of philosophy. I got whole food grade, dry bulk food grade pneumatic. For me to try to do that, say, hang out my own shingle and do that would be really impractical. So, not only is there the acquisition cost of the trailer, which is pretty expensive, but, you're going to be limited on, you're not going to be able to drop that trailer and grab another one and go load it. You're going to have to wash it every time, and so you have to be with it and so forth. So for me, it's worth giving up the percentage that they take, because they're doing all the billing, so I'm not worried about that. They're doing all the permitting. I get use of their fuel card, which, their fuel discount. So that's usually saving me, sometimes up to 70 cents a gallon off the pump price. So that's a huge bonus right there. I have, of course, can have their liability insurance then. I get my physical damage through them. And then we have some other benefits that they have, like, disability that I picked up a plan on. And there's some health benefits, but I have a different health plan on my own, so I haven't availed myself of those yet. No, I mean, it's a fantastic company. I can't recommend them enough.
Operationally, it's not uncommon to haul out loaded and empty back. And also,
it's not uncommon to have to go 500-600 miles to get the next load. And even getting to a wash sometimes can be challenging depending on where you're at. There's just not a lot of them,
Right.
But dispatch is great, as far as, looking at a load, combination of loads and seeing if it makes sense, and then, putting me on it. I almost never have to worry about that. But sometimes you come back empty. I mean, that's just, it is what it is.
How long do you typically stay out at a time?
That varies, usually a week. Sometimes I'm home a couple times during the week. Sometimes I'm gone 2 weeks, but I would say 80% of the time I'm home once a week. If I stay out a little longer, I'll take off a couple more days. So like I got home yesterday, I'm off today and tomorrow, and then I'll be leaving Saturday. So it's not, if you don't mind working weekends, and you can work with them as far as, and you don't have to work every weekend by any stretch, but, I mean, I'm my own boss, but ultimately the customer's boss, and so that's kind of how I treat it. I mean, I try to work with them and they work with me, and we get the job done.
Nichols' sense of teamwork with his leasing partner in Wayne Transports extends also to his go-to for maintenance. Regular Overdrive Radio listeners will recall the talk with Alan Kitzauber, likewise Wisconsin headquartered owner-operator who earlier this year crossed the 4 million mile threshold. And in 1995, Kenworth T600 he's been driving since it was brand new. Mike Nichols' maintenance go-to happens to be the self-same one that Kitzauber's long utilized in Chippewa Falls, JR Truck Repair.
Where I actually park at is also where I get all my maintenance done at, JR Truck Repair and Fabrication. They're located in Chippewa Falls, the Lake Hallie area of Wisconsin, kind of just north of Eau Claire. Fantastic place to get your service done. It's almost like having your own pit crew. They're, very reasonable rates, So like when I first bought Lisa Marie 2, I was living down in the Madison area. So I was getting a lot of work done at the dealer. And it's just like every 3-6 months, their labor rates going up. I mean, they're well over $200 an hour now. It's really hard. And as I alluded to earlier in the conversation, Matt, I'm not the greatest mechanic. Other people can do that job a lot better than I can. And I know, most people would say, being an owner operator, it's probably a good idea to be, pretty handy mechanically. And I would tend to agree with that. But I'm on a strict maintenance schedule. I mean, I want somebody looking at that truck, at least once or twice a month, if nothing else, then, preventive stuff, grease and, inspections, things like that. I change the oil about every 15 to 20,000. That's probably more often than some guys do, but I just think there's the benefits of catching something early outweigh the additional cost,
right? Especially
if you're working with a really good shop that you trust. And I do. I trust these guys implicitly. They're not just, you go to a lot of dealerships now and you wind up with parts changers. The guy knows how to change a part, and if it fixes it, great. And if it doesn't, well, then they change another part. It's hard to find a good diagnostician anymore. And Adam over at JR Truck Repair, the owner, is excellent, as is his brother and his techs that work for him. So they're all really good. I have a bypass filter, so that helps You could probably go a little longer on your oil changes with that. They actually recommend or say that you can go, 50,000 miles. I just can't do that. The psychology doesn't work with me. So it gets changed a little more often, but I still think it's a worthy investment just to have some extra filtration on that oil. It's an FS 2500 bypass oil filter, flow bypass. I had one on the Lisa Marie 2 as well, and it made a big difference in soot. Reoccurring issue with the Detroits, I think, is heavy soot, and I've been able to mitigate that substantially.
Here's a big congrats to owner-operator Mike Nichols, Overdrive's July Trucker of the Month. Stay tuned for more from Nichols in the next edition of Overdrive Radio about how he's weathered the tough conditions for owner-operators these last couple of years.
I actually made more money in 22 than I did 23, but I think a lot of that is an artifact of the high fuel price.
Nichols' advice for new and or aspiring owners and much more. You can enter a deserving owner-operator in Overdrive's Trucker of the Year program, sponsored this year by Commercial Vehicle Group and Bostrom Seating. Enter your own business, too, if you've weathered the economic cycles effectively yourself. You can do all that via overdriveonline.com/toptrucker. Nichols and all of our Truckers of the Month thus far for 2024 in the running for a Bostrom seat and a custom replica of their tractor as trophy for the eventual Trucker of the Year award. Get yourself in the running again via overdriveonline.com/toptrucker. Find that link, too, in the show notes wherever you find the podcast. Overdrive Radio is on Spotify and SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Overdrive's Facebook page and any listening platform, really. Big thanks to you for listening. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker-songwriter Long Haul Paul Marhofer. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis, the Snake Man himself, Wamick. Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. Podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own social media coordinator, Jasmine Campbell, news editor Matt Cole, whom we heard from today, executive editor Alex Lucky, and video editors Lawson Rudisell and Andrew Glenn. See you next time.